painful life. That's what the thumbnail says. And for Paul Azinger, that was no exaggeration. But this isn't a story about destruction. This is about one of golf's greatest comebacks ever witnessed in professional sports. Picture this, August 1993. Paul Azinger stands as the fourth-ranked golfer in the world. He's just won his first major championship in dramatic fashion. He's in his prime, feeling bulletproof and unstoppable. 4 months later, doctors tell him he has cancer. His response? I asked him if I was going to die. My kids were sitting there. It was tough. I knew I was in a fight for my life. The timing was cruel. At the moment of his greatest triumph, life delivered its harshest blow. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start at the beginning. Paul Azinger burst onto the professional golf scene in 1981 after his college years at Florida State University. By 1987, he was already PGA Tour Player of the Year, a remarkable achievement for someone still establishing himself. Between 1987 and 1993, he racked up 11 tournament victories. His style was aggressive, passionate, and absolutely relentless. He didn't just play golf, he attacked it with every fiber of his being. Nowhere was this more evident than in the Ryder Cup. Azinger famously said he took the Ryder Cup personal, and boy did it show. His intensity created one of golf's most legendary rivalries with Spanish superstar Seve Ballesteros. Seve once described the American team as 11 nice guys and Paul Azinger. That quote perfectly captured how Azinger was viewed. He wasn't just another player. He was the firebrand who brought heat to every match. Their rivalry exploded at the 1989 Ryder Cup at the Belfry. On the second green, Ballesteros wanted to replace his ball, claiming it was cut and unplayable. Azinger disagreed completely, seeing only groove marks. The referee sided with Azinger. Tension immediately spiked between the two competitors. Azinger won the match on the final hole despite finding water with his drive. Ballesteros left the green teary-eyed, devastated by the loss. But the real fireworks came at the 1991 Ryder Cup at Kiowa Island, dubbed the War on the Shore. Azinger partnered with Chip Beck against Ballesteros in Jose Maria Olazabal in what became one of the most contentious matches in Ryder Cup history. The Europeans accused the Americans of gamesmanship. Azinger and Beck were annoyed by Ballesteros's sporadic throat clearing, which they saw as deliberate distraction. Despite leading 3-up at the turn, the Americans lost both their morning and afternoon matches to the Spanish pair. Then came the ball controversy that nearly overshadowed everything. During their Friday foursomes match, Beck had switched between a 90 compression and 100 compression ball on the 7th tee. Under match play rules, this should have cost them holes, but the violation wasn't called when it happened. When European captain Bernard Gallacher brought it up later, chaos erupted on the 10th tee. Azinger insisted they made a mistake, but we certainly weren't cheating. Ballesteros fired back with one of golf's most memorable quotes. It has nothing to do with cheating. Cheating and breaking the rules are two different things. The Americans argued any penalty should have been called immediately, not several holes later. The controversy became part of Ryder Cup folklore, adding to Azinger's reputation as golf's ultimate competitor. After all this animosity, something remarkable happened. A few months later in Jamaica, Ballesteros approached Azinger on a practice putting green. He said the king of gamesmanship comment had hurt him and suggested they flush this like old toilet water. They reconciled immediately. Azinger later wrote in his autobiography, "I just can't help loving the guy except for 1 week every other year." Their rivalry had evolved into mutual respect. Meanwhile, Azinger's career was reaching incredible heights. In 1990, he won the Moni Tournament of Champions and his first European Tour event at the BMW International Open. He followed up in 1991 with victory at the AT&T Pebble Beach National Pro-Am. In 1992, he won the BMW International Open again. By 1993, he captured the Memorial Tournament in the New England Classic. Then came his crowning achievement. At the 1993 PGA Championship at Inverness Club in Toledo, Ohio, Azinger faced Greg Norman in a sudden death playoff. He clinched victory with a par on the second playoff hole. It was his 11th PGA Tour win and first major championship. During that tournament, Azinger had persistent pain in his shoulder. A doctor suggested a biopsy, but Azinger declined, focused on his strong performance. That decision would haunt him. 4 months later, in December 1993, doctors delivered devastating news. Azinger had non-Hodgkin lymphoma in his right shoulder. At 33 years old, at the absolute peak of his career, everything changed instantly. When you're 33, you don't expect anybody to tell you you've got cancer. I was in my prime. I felt bulletproof, he later recalled. The man who had seemed invincible was suddenly fighting for his life. What followed was 6 months of intensive chemotherapy and 5 grueling weeks of radiation therapy. The treatment was absolutely brutal on his body and mind. Azinger described throwing up every 20 minutes for 9 hours straight during treatments. "I didn't know anybody could be that sick," he said. "Physically, it was the worst time of my entire life. It was like the worst hangover you've ever had, multiplied by 1,000. But something remarkable happened during his darkest hour. Letters started pouring in, 15,000 of them. Hundreds came from other cancer patients. 52 books on nutrition arrived. Fellow professionals called to offer support. His friend Payne Stewart reached out during his first chemotherapy treatment. Most importantly, Azinger's faith became his foundation. God has a plan for me. He's in control of my life, he said. Despite the physical suffering, he experienced a profound transformation. I felt as happy as I've ever felt in my life, he reflected, admitting guilt about his previous focus on prize money. His doctors gave him a 90% chance of full recovery. Drawing inspiration from Gene Littler, a former U.S. Open champion who had beaten cancer in 1972, Azinger maintained hope throughout his treatment. In 1995, he published his autobiography, Zinger, a champion's story of determination, courage, and charging back. Co-authored with Ken Abraham, the book offered a brutally honest account of his cancer battle, his fear, and his faith journey. It became more than a sports memoir. It was a testament to human resilience. The book earned widespread praise for its honesty and inspirational message. In recognition of sharing his struggle publicly while continuing to engage with golf, Azinger received the GWAA Ben Hogan Award in 1995. In August 1994, Azinger announced his intention to defend his PGA Championship title. While he struggled to return to his previous form immediately, he began broadcasting for NBC in 1995, staying connected to the sport he loved. Then came 2000. At the Sony Open in Hawaii, Azinger delivered one of golf's greatest comeback stories. He won by 7 shots over Stuart Appleby, securing his first tournament victory in 7 years. It would be his 12th and final PGA Tour win. The victory was notable for another reason. Azinger had pioneered the belly putter, anchoring the handle in his belly button and rotating his midsection to putt. Initially mocked, including by Tiger Woods, who reportedly laughed at the technique, it revolutionized putting for many professionals. Azinger's putting statistics improved dramatically. He jumped from 111th to 4th in putts per green in regulation and from 150th to 3rd in 3-putt avoidance. The belly putter became widely adopted until anchored putting was banned in 2016. His journey continued beyond playing. In 2008, Azinger captained the U.S. Ryder Cup team to their first victory over Europe since 1999. His leadership strategies, detailed in his book Cracking the Code, focused on team building and psychological preparation. Even as captain, Azinger maintained his competitive edge. Some criticized him for not discouraging fan heckling of European players, but it showed his fierce desire to win remained intact. The recognition kept coming. In 2025, Azinger received the prestigious Payne Stewart Award, honoring integrity, charity, and sportsmanship. The award connected him directly to his friend, who had supported him during his cancer battle, completing a beautiful circle. Paul Azinger's story isn't about a career that got destroyed. It's about a man who discovered what truly matters. He went from golf's most intense competitor to its most inspiring survivor, from Ryder Cup villain to beloved champion of the human spirit. He proved that true championship isn't measured only in trophies. It's measured in courage when facing life's greatest challenges. Azinger didn't just survive cancer. He thrived because of it, becoming a better leader, friend, and human being. Today, when people think of Paul Azinger, they don't just remember the firebrand who battled Seve Ballesteros. They remember the man who fought cancer and won, who turned personal struggle into public inspiration, and who redefined what it means to be a champion. That's not a painful life. That's a powerful one.